Sportscast, May 22nd, 2020. If you haven't yet, please subscribe on all our channels, Periscope, iTunes. And if you're on iTunes, please leave a rating and review. It will help us out tremendously. And visit us on thesportscast.net, thesportscast.net for the latest and greatest. You'll see some news with Dak Prescott. Today's sponsor is Insta Bible app. Create pictures in verses. Download Insta Bible app in the iOS App Store. We are still analyzing what happened from this year's NFL draft. Remember, NFL draft, things change. There's a lot of moving parts there that could affect a team or a club for the next 10 years. In today's episode, we're going to analyze what the Kansas City Chiefs did and will it help their cause to win another Super Bowl in the next 5 years. And to flesh this out, all the way from Pennsylvania, Jeff Fawver, welcome back to the Sportscast.
Thank you, Santiago. I appreciate you having me.
So, Jeff, I hear Pennsylvania is still in lockdown. How are things over there?
Yeah, so we're one of the states using phases. So where I live right now, we're in the second phase. So we're allowed to start getting back to a little bit of normalcy, but there's still like group size restrictions and different things. But thankfully, being an outdoors person, I can still do my outdoor stuff, and with my job, I can work from home. So I certainly feel for the people that can't. So hopefully we get back to normal. But thankfully, I've been pretty fortunate so far.
That's pretty good. We're still in phase one, but it feels like there's still more phases to go. But is phase two? Is that means like the gym is open? Is that what it means as well?
No, the gym's not open yet, but essentially you can go out for more than just emergencies.
Oh, wow.
I mean, I hate to. I mean, I shouldn't even say it that way. I mean, you're allowed to go out and get fresh air and whatever and those things, but some additional businesses have been allowed to reopen. They just reopened real estate with a lot of restrictions, which Pennsylvania was the only state that did not rule real estate to be life-sustaining. So we're behind everybody else on that one.
Yeah, in Florida, realtors or real estate is an essential service. Obviously, real estate's a bigger industry here in Florida than Pennsylvania, except Philadelphia maybe. But of course, we'll be looking at what's going to happen slowly but surely. But that would not prevent us from doing the Sportscast. Jeff, obviously, the Kansas City Chiefs had the 32nd pick, and they picked running back Clyde Edwards-Helaire. Now, some people were predicting a running back to go there. Some other projections has someone else going. What were your thoughts about the Chiefs' first pick of this NFL draft?
Yeah, so I think it's a perfect fit. I mean, anytime you go into the draft season, you're going to have some guys that say, they didn't think he was the best running back in the class, and he was the first one taken. You have other people that think he, was the best running back in the class. For the Chiefs, I think it goes beyond just saying, is he or is he, like in a neutral situation, is he the best in the class? A lot of people still thought he was, but I think what pushed the Chiefs over the top is he fits the mold of what they want. He can obviously run the ball being a running back, but where he's really going to make the Chiefs tough is in the passing game. So one issue the Chiefs had last year is 2 years ago, they had the best red zone offense in the NFL. Last year, they were among the very worst. Now, the offensive line had injuries, the receivers had injuries, Mahomes missed a couple games. So there are a lot of dynamics playing into that. It wasn't just the running back position by any means. But until Damian Williams really played well in the playoffs, it felt as though the Chiefs just couldn't find a down-to-down reliable running back all season. It always felt as though, whether it was someone missing a pass block assignment, whether it was drop balls, whether it was fumbling, they just couldn't find a guy that they could trust to consistently be their bell cow.
Since Kareem Hunt leaving.
Yeah, I mean, really, they still they miss Hunt. There's no, a lot of people disagree with that, and that's just my opinion. But what I see is in 2018, the Chiefs had an awful lot of 3rd and 2s. In 2019 into 20, they had too many 3rd and 8s because the running game gave them nothing. And Brett Veach, the Chiefs GM after the draft, I mean, something he said just really stuck with me. He said, we watched the film from this past year, and there are I'm paraphrasing a little bit, but he basically said there's too many plays that were blocked up, and it still ended up 2nd and 8. So the offensive line did a good job of creating a running lane, and the running back just didn't make the most of the yardage. So that's a big deal over the course of a season, because on 3rd and 2, it's really hard to stop the Chiefs. I mean, they can throw quick passes to Hill or Watkins. They can, obviously hit you with the deep shots. Kelsey's really tough. And if the defense plays their dime, you might even be able to get a first down running the ball. But what teams started to do to the Chiefs, A, the Chiefs were in 3rd and long a lot, and B, when they got to the red zone, Tony Romo pointed it out. Teams were playing their dime defense against the Chiefs inside the 20. And what that basically tells you is they don't care about the run game. Like, they're playing their dime defense and just daring the Chiefs to run the ball, and they still struggled to do so. So the Chiefs are never going to be a run-heavy offense, obviously, but you have to be able to run the ball in situational football. If a team plays their dime defense inside the 20, you have to be able to run the ball against that. I mean, that's just, it's just a numbers game, because the field shrinks down in the red zone.
With the pick of Clyde Edwards-Helaire, will he become the automatic starter? I've been hearing a lot of these fantasy podcasts, and they're saying Edwards-Helaire will be starting and Williams will be RB2. What are your thoughts about that?
Historically, Andy Reid doesn't just give a rookie the starting job unless he just blows them away. And with this offseason being a little bit unique with, COVID and not being able to have the team functions, it might slow things down. I would not be surprised if Helaire doesn't start week 1, but by, either week 5 or 6 or even mid-season, at some point during the year, he'll start. You look at Kareem Hunt when they drafted him. Now, he was a little bit later pick, but Spencer Ware was actually supposed to be the starter, but he got hurt, and then Hunt started because of the injury. Now, once he got his opportunity, he just was great, so they didn't relinquish that role. But I don't think Helaire will start week 1, but I don't think it'll take him long to earn that spot.
Also, what I've been reading and hearing, the Andy Reid doesn't like to use multiple running backs. He usually uses that one running back. Do you think that's going to happen? He's going to stick to one the whole season?
Yeah, with Andy Reid, he's been pretty versatile in making different situations work. But I do agree that his preference would be to have that go-to guy. I mean, when you look at what they did with Kareem Hunt and before him, Jamal Charles, those guys got a vast, vast majority of the touches with just a few, spot situations mixed in. And I think that's what he would like to do. But last year it was just impossible, because every time he tried to give somebody that role, they blew it. And that sounds a little bit harsh. And, they ultimately ended up winning the Super Bowl. But the offense definitely took a step back last year. And like I said, there are a lot of factors going into that. But I think when you look at it, the Chiefs look at it and say, if we turn the running back position into a strength instead of it being a weakness, you could see the Chiefs offense perform like it did in 2018 instead of 2019.
Will Clyde Edwards-Helaire be that Kareem Hunt character?
They're a little bit different types of guys, and hopefully he's not the same character.
Oh, no, sorry, not character. Same type of play, same type of explosiveness.
I think he will give them explosiveness, but I think a lot of it's going to come in the passing game, whether that means the screen game or, Andy Reid is the king of getting guys open on wheel routes. And at some point, it's almost inevitable. They're going to find a way to get Helaire matched up on a linebacker, and the linebacker's going to drown trying to keep up with him. So I think that's where you'll really see Helaire be dynamic, is probably big plays in the passing game. Not that he won't break off some runs too, but the thing is, he has enough speed, but he's not necessarily that guy that is just going to, blow past you on pure athletic ability and speed.
I don't know about you, but a lot of people have been telling me to pick Clyde Edwards-Helaire as my number 2 running back in my fantasy draft. So we'll see. He might be third. He might still be left over. Like the advantage of running a sportscast and also watching college football, you know what the players are coming in and what's going to happen. And obviously, if everything goes well, if that position is needed, like this one, I think this guy is definitely this guy is a gem. But I do count on Jeff that he is right. I think week 1 he might not be the starter, but we'll see how things go. Round 2, second pick, the Chiefs pick LB Willie Gay from Mississippi State. Jeff, was this a position that the Chiefs need?
Absolutely. And looking at the draft as a whole, the first 2 picks were the 2 weakest spots on the team. The Chiefs needed a running back, and they needed to add a linebacker that was athletic. And in a lot of drafts, Willie Gay would have been the runaway most athletic linebacker in the draft, but it just so happens that, this year, his name Simmons with Clemson was just such a ridiculous athlete.
Which he went to the Giants.
Yeah. So Gay didn't get taught. Actually, I think he went to the Cardinals, if I'm not mistaken.
I think you're right. Sorry, you weren't paying attention that night than I was.
But Gay is a phenomenal athlete that can stay on the field all 3 downs, and the Chiefs miss that. I mean, Anthony Hitchens will hit and play physical, but he's not a good player in space. And Damian Wilson, he's one of those guys that every week the pads pop and he brings it, so you don't want to downplay his value either. But at the end of the day, neither one of those guys should be on the field on 3rd down. That's just if they get isolated in space, they're cooked, and it's just not their strength. But what Gay will be able to do is bring physicality on the early downs, but not be a liability when it's 3rd and 8, and you ideally would like to keep at least one linebacker on the field. A lot of teams, including the Chiefs, are going to play a lot of nickel, so they'll replace, whether they play 2 linebackers or just one. It's still good to have at least a linebacker on the field instead of it being all safeties.
Comments from our Periscope. They're saying that Willie Gay could get he is a troublemaker in college. If he has too many off-field concerns, that could be an issue for the Chiefs. Have you heard about that?
Yeah, he fell in the draft in part because he was part of a cheating situation with, I guess, students cheated on a test or somehow got the answers inappropriately. I don't know all the details of that, but I mean, obviously you don't want to make light of that, but hopefully it was just something that he was young and stupid. And then I guess he punched his quarterback too, which, things get heated in football and any sport for that matter, and fights happen. I worry more about, not to glaze over those things, because you certainly don't want anything like that to continue. But I guess my thought on all of that would be I'd be more worried if he was getting arrested for, some kind of criminal mischief or drugs or, things of that nature. So you hope that it was just a young guy doing stupid things and that he's better from it. But yeah, they'll have to be careful. They'll have to surround them with good guys, and they do have a good locker room. I think, especially on the defensive side. If you look at the defensive side of the ball for the Chiefs, they have a lot of veterans that have been through it, and especially with the Honey Badger, I think he brings an air of respect that not many NFL players bring, and I don't think many guys are going to test the Badger and try to knock him off his perch in the locker room.
We've been hearing Willie Gay is a great draft pick for Kansas City, and he'll mostly start, right?
Yeah, I mean, I'll be stunned if he doesn't start either at the strong side or weak side linebacker day. I would assume strong side, but I think he starts day 1, and as long as he's healthy, he's gonna play 16 games as the starter.
Round 3, the Chiefs selected offensive tackle Lucas Niang from TCU. What are your thoughts about that, Jeff?
Yeah, I mean, he was a first-round talent, but he had a hip injury that, unfortunately not everyone comes back from, so you do have to take the injury seriously. But at the end of the day, if he ends up healthy, he'll eventually be a starting tackle. And from my understanding of listening to Brett Veach talk after the draft, They expect him to compete for a starting guard position day one and then eventually transition out to tackle. So interior offensive line was another issue for the Chiefs last year. Actually, I would say, you could make an argument interior offensive line, running back, those were the two big weaknesses on the entire team. So if he can contribute as a guard immediately, that really gives you instant day one improvement. And then long term, unfortunately, both Mitchell Schwartz is not old, but he's certainly not, a spring chicken anymore. And then Eric Fisher, he's still got some good years left, but he's also not an elite talent. So if it turns out that Niang is an elite talent, then that's, anytime you can get an elite talent, you play them. That's how it works.
Lucas Niang from TCU at the round 3. Let's go round 4. Kansas City went again defensive back L'Jarius Sneed from Louisiana Tech. Jeff, more defense. How about that?
Yeah, mega athlete. Was moved to safety and didn't play as well, but 2 years ago played corner and played great. And the Chiefs really, when you look at what they've done with Brett Veach since he's taken over, is when it comes to defensive backs, they throw numbers at position. They haven't used a premium pick. They haven't used, like a first or second round pick on defensive backs. But what they do is they find these, super athletes that can really run and that are long and can get their hands on you. And they throw numbers at it. They bring in a lot of bodies and then let them compete. And, 2 years ago, they traded for Charvarius Ward when he was on the Cowboys practice squad. And he's turned into their number one corner. So I'm not saying, every guy you take a chance on isn't going to turn into a number one corner. But with Sneed, he certainly has the potential to be a playmaker. I think Ward is more of a cover guy that he's not going to get a bunch of interceptions or be that guy that snags a pick six. But I think Sneed fits that role more. So if you have one guy that can really make it difficult to attack them, being Ward for the Chiefs, and you hope that Sneed grows into that second corner so that if the quarterback's throwing the ball at a ball hawk a lot, certainly the quarterback's going to make some plays, but what you hope is that Sneed is that guy that can be the turnover machine and get interceptions and make plays on the ball.
Question from the chat. What led to the departure of Reggie Ragland?
Well, he's just another linebacker that can only be on the field on first, sometimes second down. Now, I like that Reggie brought physicality, and he was when they thought Mahomes was going to be out for a long time, he was one of the first guys that really stepped up. He played great in that game at Denver, and they used him as a pass rusher. They used him as an inside backer, as a strong side backer. They moved him all over. But Reggie's just another one of those guys that on third down, it's really hard to keep him on the field. And with the Chiefs, so the Chiefs' strategy is so simple. They want to score a bunch early and put you in that 14-0 hole. And then you're going to be forced to play catch-up. Well, that means the Chiefs are going to be in their nickel and dime defense a lot. So if you're going to be playing your nickel defense 70% of the time, Reggie just didn't have a spot to play there. He wasn't going to be on the field on 3rd and 8. So unfortunately, I'm glad he got a Super Bowl ring with the Chiefs because he's just one of those guys that you hear him talk. He loves football. He's physical. He cares about the team, all those good things. So I'm glad he was part of the team when they won the Super Bowl. But just moving forward, unfortunately, you just can't really pay a guy what he's worth on the market when he's not going to be on the field more than just first down.
I agree with Jeff. 5th round, the Chiefs went defensive end. Michael Diana from Michigan.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts about that? Defensive end, that's a big position.
Yeah, and I saw a couple guys make the comparison to Frank Clark from just a physical standpoint. I guess he didn't really produce like you would hope his final year at Michigan, but they had a deep defensive line that rotated a lot. This is probably the one pick in the draft that I look at and say the Chiefs just viewed him as better than anyone else. I think he would have fallen. Now, again, I'm not an NFL insider.
Not
There
yet.
could have been another GM that, yeah, right. There could have been another GM that loved him, and they were going to take him in a couple picks. We don't know for sure, but the general consensus was this was a guy the Chiefs really wanted to get, so they took him a little bit sooner than what he probably would have went for somebody else. But I think he'll be a day one special teams guy, and then you hope that in an ideal world that he can work his way into getting some pass rushing snaps. Now, the Chiefs signing Taco Charlton isn't going to help those efforts because I think just talent for talent, Taco's the more talented guy. Getting him motivated to play and being consistent, all those things is a whole nother story. But that's going to be a tough battle.
Another question from the chat. It was rumored that the Chiefs would pick up Terrell Lewis. What made them go to a different direction?
Yeah, I don't know. I think sometimes there's a lot of smoke screens there. So it could be one of those things that at the last second they change their minds, or it could be that it could just be false information that was put out. I mean, unless we're in the building, a lot of what gets out to the media is put out there on purpose to misdirect and misguide.
Like the Dolphins did
think,
sometimes.
Yeah. I think that's part of the game.
Yeah, everyone does it.
And the Chiefs have been good at that because when the Chiefs traded up for Mahomes, there were people saying that they wanted Reuben Foster, the linebacker.
Really?
And a lot of people just assumed that the Chiefs were going to stay with Alex Smith. I think anyone that followed the Chiefs really closely knew that they needed a quarterback upgrade. But for the average person, they didn't see Alex Smith getting replaced.
The last pick the Chiefs got was Bobo Kais, a cornerback from Tulane. Seventh rounders, they're questionable. They could be cutting the team. But, Jeff, what have you heard about this guy, and you think he's a keeper?
Well, the only thing I'll say is they traded back into the seventh round to get him. So they must have liked him enough that they didn't want him to get to undrafted free agency. So just another athletic guy. This goes back to the throwing numbers at defensive backs, where they're gonna have a few guys that they want, bring them into camp. It's a seventh round pick. He's really athletic. He'll have an opportunity to compete. But I think sometimes on draft day, like, we make sixth and seventh round picks out to be guys that are going to start day one, and that's just not how it works. So, I think he'll be another guy that will contribute on special teams right away. And then, again, you just try to develop him over a couple-year period. Similar to Snead, he has the athletic ability. So you give yourself an opportunity when you bring in great athletes, and then you give them a couple years and see if you can turn them into great football players.
Like the words from the Buffalo Bills general manager, Bill Polian, rounds 1 through 3 can be flashy, but rounds 4 through 7 is where you get those peak key pieces to win a Super Bowl.
Yeah, you have to hit on some of those late. If you only hit on a couple guys from the first 3 rounds every year, then your team's going to be full of free agents, and then eventually you can't afford them, and you're not going to win a whole lot doing that. So the draft, it is a balance, but the draft is really important.
How would you grade the Chiefs NFL 2020 draft, Jeff?
Yeah, that's hard because, the reality is we won't know for another year or two what it really was. I mean, I remember when Mahomes got drafted, most people gave that draft like a C because they thought Mahomes was drafted too high.
Wow.
Well, now that looks pretty stupid in, looking back now. So, I mean, I think I tend to look at almost every draft as a B because just the numbers are like this. Like, not every guy is going to reach their potential. That's just reality. If I had to call my shot, I think those first 3 picks are going to be guys that are going to be on the team a long time. I think the first 3 picks are really going to be high talent guys that make a difference. Maybe not year 1, but as over the course of the next 3 to 5 years. When I look at the rest of the draft, if you tell me that either Snead, Dana, or Keys, one of those guys hits and ends up being a really productive player, then that's a really good draft. And if I had to if I had to put my stamp on it now, just from what I've seen, I think Snead is the guy that will stick for a while and become a player. I think the last two picks, more often than not, just aren't going to stick around. They were late round picks, and they're probably not that I'm cheering against them or anything, but it's just that's the reality of the draft.
So what would you grade him?
Yeah, I'd give him a B.
A B plus, B minus, or solid 85% B?
Yeah, I think the 85% B is right where it should be. I mean, especially because I think getting Hilaire and Gay was really, really exceptional, because linebacker, running back, and interior offensive line were the three biggest weaknesses on the Chiefs, and different people rank them at different levels depending on who you talk to. But those top two picks, you got mega talent for positions you really needed, and then even your third round pick was a big talent, but there's always that injury risk. If he never comes back from that hip injury and it never gets completely right, well, then he's not going to stick around. So, yeah, I think it's an 85% B. Solid B.
Yeah, and this is the correct quote from Bill Polian. I got corrected. Rounds 1 through 3 are the easy picks to make, but rounds 4 through 7 are the picks that make Super Bowl champions.
There you go.
That's an amazing quote. I think that does it. And you gotta have a general manager, that has a good hunch of what's gonna happen. Now, don't get me wrong. There's some good general managers that have some great picks, but also some awful picks. Mm-hmm. And that's something to look at. Looking at the AFC West, people thought the Raiders had a bizarre draft. What are your thoughts about it? Quick 60 seconds.
Yeah, I mean, when you're in the Raiders' position, you're just trying to add as much talent as you can. And Raiders fans get mad when you say this, but I think the Raiders are setting up for life after Derek Carr.
Wow.
I think this will be Derek Carr's last year with.
Will be Mariota's team now.
Well, no, I don't think he's the answer either. I think this upcoming year is going to be difficult for the Raiders on offense, but they're going to position themselves to get a quarterback next year, whether that's trading for a veteran, whether that's drafting someone high. But they want to get some youth at the wide receiver position, some athleticism, some explosiveness, and then their next quarterback will be in a position to hit the ground running.
Broncos powered up with the wide receivers, Jerry Jeudy and KJ Hamler. Is Jeff getting worried with the Broncos?
I wouldn't say worried, but I love what they did. When I look at the Broncos, they're ahead of the Raiders in the building process. But Drew Lock, I'm not down on him, but I'm not ready to. I think he's been a little bit overhyped. But I would say that the Broncos are doing the smart thing because they're surrounding him with a ton of talent. And at the end of the day, Drew Lock's going to get 16 games to see what he is. And either he is or he isn't, But one way or another, you'll know if he's your quarterback of the future. And if he's not, then you have all these young receivers to move on with your next guy. So I think what the Broncos did is really smart. And I think they had a great draft. I mean, Hamler was one of my favorite players in the draft. Just watching a lot of Penn State, it just seemed like he was always running open somewhere. So I think I really love what they did. Whether Drew Lock is the guy or not the guy, you can have that debate. But one way or another, we're going to find out. Franchise quarterback is the most important position in all of sports.
Something to definitely look at. Of course, Drew Lock got drafted last year, and you're right. There's no complaints. There's no excuses. They're going to be some type of force. It just depends on Drew Lock. He's the one that throws the ball. So, and his receivers can catch, but can he throw it correctly? Chargers, obviously, they got a quarterback, Justin Herbert. Are they? Would you say they're a 2C for the AFC West, or?
I mean, if I had to rank it right now, it'll be between the Broncos and Chargers for second place. The Chargers defense is loaded. I mean, their defense has a lot of really good players, and they got Chris Harris this offseason. But, their quarterback position is a mess. I mean, Tyrod Taylor, I cannot envision a situation where he starts more than 5 games. I mean, I just can't imagine an NFL team trying to sell their team on him being the starter. But
the bridge to Herbert.
Yeah, that's just it. I mean, he's going to be the bridge guy. And if you're the Chargers and you actually want to win this season, you're just going to have to hope that Herbert is ready early. And, I wouldn't, if I was putting money on it, I wouldn't. But we have seen crazy things over the years, so you can never just guarantee that a guy doesn't pan out.
We'll see with the Chargers, but the Chargers have to go by Kansas City. There's no excuses.
That's right.
Which is a tough task to follow. Before we end, let's talk about Dak Prescott. There's been some rumors about negotiations. They got Andy Dalton a couple weeks ago. What's going to happen to Dak? You think he'll get a contract before the season starts?
It doesn't sound like they're very close, but those differences can be made up quickly. Andy Dalton, I mean that. So Andy Dalton that was a solid move in case they end up in a dire situation where Dak holds out or refuses to play. But I don't think he ultimately affects the negotiations a whole lot. Andy Dalton is what he is. He's an average quarterback that's been around a long time. But and from my understanding is what Schefter said some of the reports about what Dak was asking for wasn't true. The biggest holdup apparently is Dak would like a short deal, and I'm assuming that's because he wants to get more money when the new TV deal hits, and the Cowboys would like to sign him to a longer deal, which makes sense because they want to lock him in at current prices. So I think that'll be the biggest one. Once they resolve that part of the contract, I think it'll get done.
Poll questions. We're going towards the end of the show. Anything else before we head into poll questions and random questions?
I'm good to go.
First poll question on Twitter: should the Dolphins keep Josh Rosen? Yes or no?
I would say yes, just because it's good to have. It's never a bad thing to have more than one young quarterback that you're developing, and with Tua, we need to see him, get healthy and stay healthy. So I wouldn't ditch Rosen just yet.
Twitter has it 60% no and 39% yes. So Dolphin fans most probably voting for that.
I guess I'm wrong.
Second poll question: what is your favorite kind of tea? Black tea, green tea, English breakfast tea, or matcha?
I would just say black tea. Yeah.
Black tea is winning 54%. Green tea 27%. English breakfast 18%. Matcha gets 0%.
Sounds about right to me. Yeah.
Last poll question: so far, who's been a better NBA commissioner, Adam Silver or David Stern?
Adam Silver.
Why?
I don't even love the NBA the way I used to, but Adam Silver, I feel as though he's a forward thinker, and I just think he cares a little bit more about the players than what Stern did. I'm not saying Stern was a terrible guy or anything like that, but I just think Silver has a better connection with the players. Like when you hear the way he speaks and then the way the players talk about him, I think that he just connects with the players better.
And random question. Oh wait, David Stern is winning 57% and Silver 42%.
Good grief!
So most of the people are disagreeing with you, Jeff. But no pressure. I mean, there's nothing going to happen after for you. But anyways, random question: would you rather see a NBA or NHL franchise in Kansas City?
NBA.
Why?
Yeah, for sure. I just like basketball better than hockey.
That's quite interesting. I think Kansas City had a team back in the 70s, right?
Yeah, they had the Kings.
That's right. Huh? Kansas City is interesting because their soccer team is doing well. Of course, the football team is. They only have 2 professional sports in Kansas City.
The Royals haven't really been performing very well, but they're there too.
Oh, Royals! Oh, I forgot about them. Which they won a World Series a couple years ago.
2015, which wasn't
2015.
That long ago. Yeah,
5 years ago. Yeah, that's pretty far. Jeff Farr, what is the best way to reach you online or direct line?
Best way to follow along at JT Fawver on Twitter.
And you can find us on the sport.
This time of year, there will be more fishing pictures coming.
Just more fishing. How about barbecue?
There will be barbecue too. No doubt about that.
Not bad. Barbecue and fishing and the Chiefs are Jeff's top 3 hobbies. Not, I was going to say life. No, top 3 things to do besides taking care of his family and of course watching Sports Center. You can reach us at thesportscast.net, thesportscast.net, or at thesportscast1. This Sunday there's a Tiger Woods documentary. If you after like the whole Last Dance, the Golf Channel, came prepared. they're having a Tiger Woods documentary on Sunday night at the Golf Channel, which I think you might have that via your cable lineup. I bet.
I might check that out.
Yeah,
I think I might.
This shouldn't be. I mean, golf is typically boring, but when Tiger Woods and a movie comes out, I think that's worth watching. What were your thoughts about The Last Dance? Were you able to see it?
Yeah, I loved it. I loved every minute. I mean, you talk about nostalgic. I mean, that was. I remember so much of that, but then you realize how much you forgot about, and yeah, that was a great series. My only complaint was in that series against the Sonics. I wish they everything they talked about with Dennis Rodman was almost always his off the court stuff,
correct.
Which is fine because he was a character. But that Sonic series, you could have made an argument for him as the MVP of that series. He was awesome. He was absolutely awesome.
Good memory.
And they didn't even. I mean, there's actually a YouTube video that is like a 40-minute breakdown of why Rodman should have been the MVP, and it's really good. It was one of the best off-ball performances we've ever seen in the NBA.
You think Rodman was on the decline in his last year?
Oh yeah, in his last year he was. I thought he played great year one, really good year two, year three. By the end of the season, he was still a really good player, but he was starting to wear out.
Lost a step. Became Rodzilla.
He did. That's right. Rodzilla. Yeah.
Well, Jeff, great show, and I'll see you soon.
All right. Sounds good. Thank you.